Real Country 1430 AM and 107.3 FM WRDN. Brian Winnekins from World Dairy Expo. And thank you to our Expo sponsors, including Wisconsin Soybean Marketing Board, Synergy Co-op, Wisconsin Farmers Union, Wisconsin Corn Growers Association, Uttertech, Osteoplastics, and Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin. We're at the Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin booth. Chad Vincent joins us. He is the CEO, and we're going to talk about exports. And Chad, thanks for joining us today. Exports are very, very, very important for Wisconsin dairy because I consider selling cheese or milk products in Minnesota as exports.
That's true. I mean, because 90% of what we sell, 90% of the milk in the state gets turned into cheese, and 90% of what cheese we make gets sold outside our borders. And it's now double digits of that is being sold outside the country.
Wow. Okay, so what are some of the things Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin is doing to help increase those exports, especially overseas?
Yeah, well, for the last decade or so, we've been bringing retail groups into the state and walking them through, getting them to meet with dairy companies, getting them on a farm, getting them to realize how amazing dairy is in Wisconsin and why we are, the dairy state. And now we do that on an international basis. So we bring in, like 2 weeks ago, we brought in a group from Middle East, North Africa, right? And we've been bringing in groups from Asia and from Latin America, and these are all vetted by us. So maybe 10, 12 at a time. They come through, they meet with the dairy companies, they get on a farm, they go to Center for Dairy Research to understand that we are not only best in class at making milk, but turning milk into these amazing, wonderful dairy products that are healthy, beneficial for your health and to enjoy, right? And so they walk out of here, then we build the relationships, and we're selling millions and millions of dollars based on bringing these people into the state already.
When these buyers come in, what are they asking? What do they want to know?
The first question, can you supply us? Do you have enough to supply our needs? The second thing they're talking about now is the environment. Do you treat your animals well? Do you treat your land well? Are you quote, sustainable? Because that's it's not only that's the conversation not only having with consumers in the U.S., but it's happening around the world, and it's especially happening at government leadership positions. So, we're actually working on marketing with PDPW to be able to tell Wisconsin's sustainability story to the foreign platforms, the people like the gatekeepers from, well, will we let you sell in our country or not? Are you really treating the animals well? Do you really have sustainable dairy practices? So, and we do. We're at the top of the heap on that stuff. So it's an easy story to tell. We just need to tell it and get people to understand it.
When you visit with these buyers, do they also have a special request? The reason I ask that is, one, there's different cultures. There's different how they might use cheese. I like to use soybeans. There's some soybean buyers that they need food-grade soybean or oil with, soybeans with a certain amount of oil. Do you get that too?
We do, but we vet them pretty carefully before they come in. And so, actually, Center for Dairy Research did a international cheese needs state study a few years ago where they went into dozens of countries and said, look, if you're going to go into this country, they want their cheese to be really bright white and they want it to be stretchy and kind of bland. This one wants it to be a little bit darker, and they want it to be really sharp. So we know a lot about what is needed. But before they come in, we know, are you looking for food service? And what kind of products are you looking for? And we work with the dairy companies ahead of time to make sure that they actually have this stuff, and so they can be talking to the buyers about what they want versus what they have.
Wow. Talking with Chad Vincent with the Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin from World Dairy Expo today. So when you meet with these buyers, okay, they meet the dairy farms and all, but then are you working with the cheese processors to say, okay, you guys come over to Brian's cheese plant. Brian, we need, they're looking for this, and that. Can you do it?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the key thing we do is we either get them into the plants or we call mini trade shows. So we'll bring in 24 cheese companies or dairy companies, and they are in a hotel ballroom, and it's like speed dating. So you're looking for specialty cheese that does this. Here's the 3 companies you should be meeting with, and they build those relationships and they sell. So we're like the matchmakers and the hosts to bring people in to make stuff happen. 95% of the world's population lives outside the U.S., and the vast majority of those countries are absolutely going to need our dairy for the health benefits and the food quality that we can generate. So what we do is really important. It's going to drive sales today. It's going to drive sales in the long run. International is not easy. International, it's typically it's at least a year from the time I meet somebody that they're buying. But when we're doing these buyer missions and we're setting up conversations ahead of time, it's like some of these things, it's like we're selling the day they meet. It's kind of crazy.
What about other products? And the reason I say that, I talked with the folks from AMPI, they're big cheese.
Right.
Well, big thing of cheese is whey. Well, the whey market, I never thought I'd be talking about whey markets.
Right.
So is that also part of this, that for that value added thing? I know that's such a catchphrase, but isn't that important?
There is a big whey market that comes out of here, and that's been established, and those buyers are known, and it just kind of rolls along, and the pricing goes wherever it goes. We're really trying to focus in more on the value add stuff, where people can actually be differentiated, because around the country, out west and in the Dakotas, they've got these gigantic cheese plants going up. And they're going to be modern. They're going to be technological wizards. They're going to be able to produce cheese in quantities that are mind-blowing and cheaper than what we make here. We need to make sure that there's a home for Wisconsin milk, that we're selling the differentiated products. Half the specialty cheese that's made in the country is made in our state, right? And so that's really the area that we're trying to push. Is if you look at, if you talk about, French wine. Oh, I like French wine. Wisconsin cheese, I like Wisconsin. I like U.S. cheese, I like U.S. cheese. But if you have Wisconsin cheese, all of a sudden it's like champagne, right? It's a differentiated, it's higher quality, it's more desirable and more recognizable, harder to replace at the shelf.
Finally, how important is it, these buyer missions that you set up for those cheese processors? Because Brian's Cheese Company, I can't go to the Middle East and then to Europe and then to Asia, and then I just can't do it. So how important is this?
It's really important. And the cool thing is that we partner with Department of Ag, DATCAP here in the state. We partner with USDEC, the U.S. Dairy Export Council. So we're not paying for this whole thing ourselves either, right? So everybody's got a hand in this thing. Everybody's helping fund it. Everybody's helping bring these guys in, because it's true. There's some smaller cheese companies out there, mid-sized guys, that don't have the capabilities to go to these places. They're not these giant companies. And by bringing people in to make those relationships, we're greasing the skids. So 4 years ago, we were talking to 2 dairy companies in the state about exporting. 3 years later, we're talking to 25, right? And we're sold in over 100 countries outside the U.S. today.
Wow, Wisconsin cheese. It's everywhere. It'll maybe be on Mars down the road with Elon Musk, you bet. Chad Vincent with Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin. From World Dairy Expo, I'm Brian Winnikins. You're listening to WRDN.